after the referendum. I'm not arguing, and I will never argue, that Britain couldn't survive outside the European Union. We are the fifth largest economy in the world, the biggest defence player in Europe, with one of the most extensive and influential diplomatic networks on the planet. The question is not could Britain succeed outside the European Union, it is how will we be most successful? How will Britain be most prosperous? How will we create the most jobs? How will we have the most influence on the rules that shape the global economy and affect us? How will we be most secure? And I've always said that the best answers to those questions can be found within a reformed European Union. But let me say again, if we can't secure these changes, I rule nothing out.
Should the UK remain in the European Union? Soon we'll all be asked to decide. According to the Prime Minister, it's one of the biggest political choices in a lifetime. But first, David Cameron is trying to negotiate a new deal with European leaders. And today, addressing a business conference in London, he said unless the EU changed, he'd rule nothing out.
Is this organisation flexible enough to make sure that countries inside the Eurozone can grow and succeed, and countries outside the Eurozone, like Britain, can find what they need as well? If it's flexible enough, we'll stay. If it's not flexible enough, we'll have to ask ourselves a very profound question: is this organisation for us? Good afternoon. Last night in Brussels, I set out Britain's new settlement with the European Union. This morning, I've just chaired a meeting of the Cabinet in which I updated them on the special status we have secured for Britain. And the Cabinet agreed that the government's position will be to recommend that Britain remains in a reformed European Union. Now I want to speak directly to the British people to explain why.
The Foreign Secretary has failed to live up to his Eurosceptic credentials, the credentials of which he boasts, and to which I credit him, because the Foreign Secretary is an honourable man. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, said that what we needed was fundamental and far-reaching reform. We have not achieved fundamental and far-reaching reform. His Eurosceptic Foreign Secretary has, in this regard, let him down. That in the renegotiations we have not achieved anything of any great substance, that on the free movement of people we have nothing. We have had so little on the issue of benefits that the great mass migration will continue. It's announced today 257,000 people came from the European Union in the last year, 55,000 of them from Bulgaria and Romania. My Eurosceptic friend has done nothing to change this. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, said in 2014 that the complex rules, in his Bloomberg speech, that the complex rules restricting our labour markets are not some naturally occurring phenomenon, just as excessive regulation is not some external plague that has been visited on our businesses. But this plague is to continue. The renegotiations have done nothing to stop this plague. They haven't summoned Moses back to try and deal with the plague. As I seem to remember, he finally got rid of the plague of frogs that were afflicting Pharaoh. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, said that he thought it was essential in terms of immigration to restore a sense of fairness, to make our immigration system fairer and reduce the current exceptionally high level of migration from the EU. Nothing has been done to achieve this. The renegotiation is not only a failure because it has achieved so little, has failed to tackle the problems that we promised the British electorate that we would solve. It is worse than that, because we have given away our negotiating card when the European Union comes to a fundamental treaty reform of its own. In the document settled last weekend, it says member states whose currency is not the euro shall not impede the implementation of legal acts directly linked to the functioning of the euro area, and shall refrain from measures which could jeopardise the attainment of objectives of economic and monetary union. So the Eurosceptic Foreign Secretary, the honourable man I was referring to, has managed, with my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, to give away our most powerful negotiating card. When the European Union needs to develop the fiscal union that it has asked for, we have nothing to say because we have promised we will do nothing. And so we have left ourselves still on the path to the European superstate, that state that has been getting bigger and bigger since we joined it in 1972, a state that has a flag, a state that has an anthem, a state that, because it's greedy, not only has 1 but 5 presidents, a state with a parliament that has not only 1 but 2 seats of operation, a state with the symbols of statehood and the powers of a state. It has legal personality to conduct treaty negotiations. It has the legal power to make laws, and those laws are senior to our laws. And my right honourable friend, the famously Eurosceptic Foreign Secretary, said that the treaty is legally robust. But he phrased himself very carefully with the pedantry that one would hope and expect of from somebody from the Foreign Office. He said it was robust in terms of international law. That gives it no justiciability in the courts of the European Union. It is merely taken into account. So we have a pretty worthless agreement, and we have scare stories to tell us why we should not join. If, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it was so dangerous, why did the Prime Minister offer us a referendum? If he thought the world would collapse on the day we voted no, is he some hooligan, some yahoo, who thinks that it is safe to risk this nation's future by trusting the people? When he said he ruled nothing out, surely he meant it. Surely he was not saying that, in fact, he was always going to go along with whatever our friends in Brussels said, because the Prime Minister is a most trustworthy figure who negotiates in good faith. And that is the problem of all that underlies this negotiation.
To have a point. And my point is this. More of the same will not secure a long-term future for the Eurozone. More of the same will not see the European Union keeping pace with the new powerhouse economies. More of the same will not bring the European Union closer to its citizens. More of the same will just produce more of the same. Less competitiveness, less growth, fewer jobs. And that will make our countries not stronger but weaker. That is why we need fundamental, far-reaching change.